My Lords, I beg to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, in 2016, 17.4 million people voted to leave the European Union. This was the highest number of votes cast for anything in UK electoral history and the biggest democratic mandate for a course of action ever directed at any UK government. This government believes it is our duty to implement this will of the electorate and deliver on the referendum result.
My Lords, the largest ever opinion poll, 25,000 people over the holiday period, showed a Remain net lead range with former Leave voters as well, between 16% and 26%. My Lord Minister, the game is up. Surely Parliament now must move to save the people from the government's continuing folly.
Well, I'm sorry to disagree with the noble lord. There have been a lot of opinion polls since the referendum result. So, whilst researching this topic this morning, I thought I would look and see if there's been any analysis done of all of the opinion polls. And indeed there has, by Professor John Curtis. I think we all agree, a respected polling analyst. Let me read to you what he said after analysing all of the polls that have been done. In short, neither side in the Brexit debate has secured any momentum so far as the balance of public opinion is concerned, and any claims to the contrary made by protagonists on either side of the debate should be regarded with considerable scepticism.
Well, my lords, there may have been 17 million that voted in the referendum, but in this House, 159 majority voted against the deal, and 230 majority in the other House voted against the deal. So isn't it time that the government stopped being so dismissive of Parliament and of the votes and the views here, and actually began to listen? Ruling out talking to the opposition is actually irresponsible. Isn't it time for some listening and some serious talks?
Well, I mean, maybe the noble lady should stop being so dismissive of the referendum results in the first place. But the government, we have said that we take the opinion of Parliament extremely seriously. The Prime Minister will be conducting discussions with party leaders and with others to see what is acceptable in Parliament. But I have to say the Labour Party don't exactly give the impression that they're open to discussions. I would recommend the noble lady have a look at the interview on Channel 4 with her front bench spokesman, Richard Bergen, where discussing with a very reasonable, for a change, Liberal Democrat, Joe Swinton, he said that the Conservatives were the real enemy. I hope the Labour Party are up for some constructive discussions, but they really need to decide what they're in favour of rather than just what they're against.
My Lords, we do know that Conservatives believe that there can be a rethink after a first referendum, as it did so in regard to the Welsh devolution referendum, when Conservatives, including Theresa May, voted against implementation, and then in a later manifesto said they were going to overturn it. So isn't it entirely hypocritical of the government to refuse a democratic vote of the people to assess whether the Brexit has turned out as they thought it might? And in fact, the YouGov poll recently showed a 63 majority for Remain compared to May's deal. Isn't that the reality, that the government is afraid of the people?
Not at all. We are implementing the will of the people. But I have to say that to the Liberal Democrats that not only have they failed to convince a majority in this Parliament of a case for a second people's vote, but they obviously haven't even convinced Mr Guy Verhofstadt, who's their leader in the European Parliament, someone that the noble lady, of course, as I do, knows well. Because this morning he tweeted that it is unthinkable that Article 50 is prolonged beyond the European elections, which, for those who don't know, is on the 23rd of May. The last referendum bill took 7 months to go through Parliament, and that was from a government with a majority and a manifesto commitment to implement it. So the Liberal Democrats need to get real about this.
My Lords, would my noble friend recognise that there were many who voted in the referendum on both sides, Leave and Remain, who want us to be in a common market with our European neighbours, but not in the European Union. And the mechanism that they think may achieve that is to be in a customs union with our European neighbours while exiting the European Union.
And will he recognise that that should now be part of these productive discussions, including with the political parties represented here?
Well, I thank my noble friend for his constructive contribution, as always. And we have to accept the vote in Parliament yesterday. We have to talk to all sides of Parliament, because there needs to be a majority for something. And I'm sure the Prime Minister is up for constructive discussions with all sides.
Lords, in view of the statement made by the Prime Minister yesterday that she will be seeking a consensus, will the government now rule out a no-deal Brexit?
My Lords, the reason that a no-deal Brexit is on the cards is because Parliament has legislated for our leaving date of the 29th of March, which of course accords with the majority of how people in Wales voted. So, the best way to prevent no deal is to have a deal, and there is a deal on the table.
My Lords,
My Lords, would the noble Lord the Minister recognise that in the situation we're now in, there is no realistic possibility of settling this matter before the 29th of March, other than a default departure, which this House, voted by 169 majority, was categorically to be rejected. So could he not take a slightly softer tone about the need, which is now quite obvious to everyone, that there will need to be a prolongation?
Well, I thank the noble Lord for his comments, but it's not a question of taking a softer tone or a harder tone. I was merely quoting what the law passed by this Parliament says, and that law says that we leave on the 29th of March, as indeed does the Article 50 process. So if that were to change, it would need to change by statute.
Would the Minister accept that it was a...
Noble Lord, could my noble friend then just clarify... Bridges. I give way.
Would my noble friend agree that it's very important to keep one's word? And does he recall at the beginning of the referendum campaign, the Prime Minister said, when the British people speak, their voice will be respected, not ignored. If we vote to leave, then we will leave. There will not be another renegotiation and another referendum. And that was endorsed by all sides of the campaign.
I do like these popularity contests between different noble lords. I thank my noble friend for his comments, which I wholeheartedly endorse.